All right. Before we get started, just a quick conversation that when we chose candidates to invite to this, King County candidates to invite to this meeting, we invited them based off of who are our Fair Vote Washington ranked choice voting champions. And ranked choice voting champions came from a survey that Fair Vote Washington put out asking candidates to kind of express their support of ranked choice voting and if they are actively committed to passing legislation for it. And from that, Fair Vote has a recognition of those candidates. We don't actually give endorsements. So instead of saying we endorse this candidate, here's who you should vote for, it's we recognize this candidate because you know that they are working in support of ranked choice voting. I actually personally like that system. I think it fits with Fair Vote Washington because rather than using a single issue to make it a decision, it allows for some kind of some nuance. So you will notice if you look at candidate websites, a lot of times we are listed under endorsements, or they might say Fair Vote Washington endorses me. Not a huge deal, but just wanting you to know that we see it more as a recognition process. All right, and without further ado, in just a second, I'm going to start introducing the candidates. Just so you know, I'm an elementary teacher, so everything's about like, how do I make this fair? So I went in order of legislative district to determine the order for today. I'm going to share the slide for that candidate, and then I will stop screen sharing so that you can see the person as they speak. All right, and so our first person today in Legislative District 5 that I would like to introduce is Ingrid Anderson, running for state senator. And I'm going to stop my share.
May I go? Awesome, awesome. So I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. Thanks for taking time out of your Saturday. I'm excited to be here. I support creating a ranked choice voting system because this is a system that will strengthen our democracy. By implementing ranked choice voting, it'll give people much more powerful voice and the ability to vote for all of your first choice candidate, but also to have your other choices be heard and recognized. And this is what democracy should be about. We want every voice to be heard, and we want to make sure that preferences are respected and counted. This is about giving representation to the people, and a system like this allows new candidates and minority candidates also a better chance of entering a system that has often excluded them. So this is about equity and giving people a representation. So I'm really excited about that. A little bit about me as a candidate. I've lived out in the Snoqualmie Valley most of my life. I'm very grounded in my community. I live in the house next door to the house I grew up in, where my parents still live today, and this is where I'm raising my son. I am a nurse, a mom, and a community advocate. I've spent my years as a nurse working in the emergency department, the psychiatric department, and I also specialize as a sexual assault forensic nurse examiner. And I do this because I know the importance of representing all of the members of our community, not just some. I have seen, as a nurse, the deep structural flaws of our healthcare system, and I understand what is working and what is not working, and I see the implications of good and bad policy and how it translates to the overall health of our community. And this is why I am running. This is a perspective that we need in our state Senate at this time. I have had the privilege of serving as the vice chair of the Washington State Nurses Association Political Action Committee. And in this capacity, I was able to work with people in the state Senate as well as the House to pass legislation that addressed healthcare reform, including giving rest breaks for nurses and healthcare workers, looking at surprise medical billing for patients, as well as controlling narcotic substances in our community and creating disposal systems for that, and much more. It's this experience as a community member, as a working person, as a nurse, as an advocate, that I want to bring to Olympia. And I am so excited to have this opportunity. I feel like it's time that we have a voice for all of the people, not just some of the people. And we need more than a yes vote. We need somebody who will stand up and be a champion for the values that we hold. So I'm very excited to take this to Olympia, and I think it's time that we have a nurse in the state Senate so that as we're navigating our pandemic response and economic recovery, we have somebody who understands the intricacies of the healthcare system and makes sure that legislation that we're passing doesn't look just good on paper, but actually translates to improved outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, let me move to our next candidate. All right, our next candidate today is Representative Cindy Ryu, running for re-election for state representative, position 1 in Legislative District 32. And Representative Ryu was also one of the co-sponsors of our local options bill. So now, whoops, not as fast as I should be. Let's see, Representative Ryu, I can't see.
Do you want me to go ahead and speak so you can see me now?
Yes, thank you.
Great, you're welcome.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so very much for this opportunity. My name is Cindy Ryu. I immigrated to the United States and Washington State 51 years ago from Korea. And we had before that lived in Brunei and the Philippines because South Korea in those days was not doing that great economically. And so my dad had gone overseas several years before to earn a living for our family. We landed in rural Thurston County, and then we moved to the big city of Centralia, where my mom worked as a seamstress and my dad as a mechanic and a welder. I started working at the age of, ripe old age of 12 because we didn't have money for babysitting or anything. And so even my younger brothers, 10 and 8 years old, we all went out to work in the blueberry fields, which was great because we could at least feed ourselves, right, during the day when we were hungry, because you don't have to wash blueberries. While strawberries, you have to wash those. So I've had the privilege of attending the University of Washington and obtained my Bachelor of Science in microbiology. And because I couldn't get into med school because I was extremely shy and could not interview well for medical school, even though my brother was in the admitting committee. He was a great student, so they invited him to everything. But I could not get in. So I went ahead and got my MBA in operations management from UW as well. And now I'm a state representative representing 6 cities and towns. And I've lived in 4 of the 6 cities in the 32nd Legislative District since 1976. My husband and I raised 3 children through Edmonds and Shoreline Public Schools, and they're also Huskies. And in my serving my 5th term, so this is my 10th year in the legislature, I chair the Housing, Community Development, and Veterans Committee, and working on policies with a whole bunch of other legislators, including others who are on this call, on policies to increase the number of affordable rental housing and home ownership, increasing protection of renters as consumers, protecting existing housing such as manufactured home communities and affordable housing units. So why did I mention that I'm an immigrant? Well, I have cousins who are living in North Korea as well as South Korea and in the United States. And guess which political system I like the best? I definitely am supportive of representative democracy. I, just like my family, myself and my 3 brothers, have benefited public education, access to healthcare. All those things require strong government leadership. And so I am definitely on board with what you're doing. And I did attend one of your one-on-one class, and it was intimate enough that I could ask a whole bunch of questions. So please be sure to attend one of them because, yeah, it answered all the questions I had. I knew from the start it was a concept that I supported. And then, of course, having majored in operations management, definitely interested in how, if the concept is implemented, then how well is it going to work? And I think we have a fantastic group of of people who have experience as well as have very thoughtful ideas on how it can best increase our representation. And, it might unsettle some of us incumbents, but, as a whole, I think many of us are very interested in good representation and making sure that unlike my cousins, especially in North Korea, that we actually have a real democracy. So thank you so very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here and for attending an RCV 101. Awesome. All right. Let me switch over again to our next running for state representative, position 2, Liz Berry, for Legislative District 36. And so I'll.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Good turnout. Saturday morning, 46 people. Love it. I'm Liz Berry. I'm running for the State House, the 36th Legislative District. It's an open seat this year being vacated by Gail Tarleton, who's running for Secretary of State. So vote Gail for Secretary of State. I got to do plug for my friend Gail. The 36th district encompasses Queen Anne, Magnolia, Ballard, Inner Bay, Belltown, all the way up to Carkeek Park. So do we have any 36 folks in the house? Raise your hand. Yay. Oh, Brett. Yeah. Cool. So really quick about me, I live in Queen Anne with my family. My son George is 4, my daughter Eleanor is 1, and George was actually here in his jammies just hanging out. He likes to sort of see what mommy's up to and on weekends on the phone. I am the nonprofit executive director of the Washington State Association for Justice. We're the largest civil justice advocacy in the Pacific Northwest. We stand up for workers, patients, consumers, injured people against powerful corporations and special interests. My background is in policy. I also served as legislative director for Congresswoman Gabby Giffords during the last Great Recession. So I have a lot of lessons I learned about then, about what worked and didn't work, that I'm going to apply to my job in the legislature next year. So when I learned about ranked choice voting, it made complete sense to me. And I've been a longtime friend of George Chung for many years. And so George got me hooked early on with this concept. And when I met with him in Mohit early on in the campaign, I was in, I knew it was for me. I knew it was something I wanted to talk about. It just makes sense. Let's get rid of our drawn out and expensive primary system and let's stop throwing away votes. The thing that I'm most excited about is that ranked choice voting halts the process of chasing reliable voters and instead invites campaigns to focus on campaigning to people of color and young people and people who haven't traditionally been a part of the voting process before. And I'm really enjoying calling those people right now. We've made over 65,000 phone calls in my district this campaign season. And I love calling those people who are like, it's really shocking because we're all nerds in politics here, but like when people are like, I don't know if I'm going to vote. I'm like, what? Who are you? And then, I've just had like 10 minutes being like, well, this is so important and da-da-da. And I think that process will engage more people and I'm really excited about that. It invites more candidates to run. So I've dedicated my career to getting more women in public office and civic life, and women of color in particular. And I think that will also help in that way. Our elected bodies must be representative of the people they serve, period. Finally, it promotes civility in politics. We all know politics is just getting so mean and nasty, and that's why a lot of good people don't want to run. So let's try to do everything we can to stop that. I will be a strong advocate in the legislature for a local options bill for ranked choice voting, and I'm excited to be your champion and advocate. Thank you to Fair Vote. Thank you to all of you who are engaged on a cold, rainy weekend. And thank you for your support of our campaign. Let's go get them.
Awesome. Thank you as well. All right. Okay. And last but not least, speaking today, we have Representative Frank Chop running for re-election for, Senator. My husband just yelled at me. Anyway, Legislative District 43. And I'm just gonna stop talking right now.
So, do you want me to begin?
Yes, and you can clarify for me as to which of us has it right.
I'm a state representative and
Thank
former
you.
Speaker of the House.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if I've ever been called a senator before. Oh, well. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk with you today. And also thanks for identifying me as a champion for ranked choice voting by Fair Vote Washington. I very much value that recognition. I have actively supported this whole dynamic for a number of years. To me, it's just an issue of simple fairness. In fact, your name, Fair Vote, is perfect from my point of view. It indicates a simple desire to be fair to everybody. And more importantly, to give people more options. I mean, who wants less options? I don't know. I just think it's important to give the people options that they can exercise. And it's important to listen to all the voices in the community across the state. So as Speaker, I pushed a local options bill through the legislature before we included it in other legislation. So I've actively supported your efforts trying to push it through. And actually, the first person to talk to me about this was Chris Novoselic. Anybody hear of Chris Novoselic? You ever hear of Nirvana? Well. Anyway, Chris is a longtime friend of mine. He talked to me several times about this, trying to make sure we move the ball forward on this. And we got some option through the legislature, at least in terms of the House Representatives, despite a lot of opposition. And more importantly, I'm more than willing to partner with you to figure out the next steps and strategy about how we try to move forward on this issue. And I think it's very, very important. And let's just try to figure out the best way forward. To me, it's a part of a broader agenda for democracy. Here, let me give you a few examples of what we've done the last several years to promote democracy. One of which is I was able to get through the option for local governments to have public financing of their local city council elections. I thought that was the right thing to do. We got that done, and at least the city of Seattle has adopted that. Also, we in the House passed the Washington State Voting Rights Act, many, many times, and finally got it through the Senate when it switched over to Democrats. We also were a leader in the nation, not the first, but close, in direct mail-in ballots. I mean, can you imagine that concept? I mean, who would have known that this year we were shown as a national example? Actually, we're a national example on all sorts of things, but I was really proud when I knew our record of being giving people the mail-in option, not an option, but actually just mail it out to everybody. It vastly increased the turnout, which is very important, but also it makes it into a regular orderly process and not some emergency driven by a pandemic like other states have gone through. It's just amazing. So to be a national model, I think was very helpful. And then we topped it off by actually paying for the postage. So you just have to drop in the mailbox and it gets in, it's counted, and very proud of that. And those are just 4 of many things we've done to expand democracy. And I hope that someday we can pass what you're looking for in terms of more options for ranked choice voting. So thank you very much. I look forward to the questions and answer.
Thank you so much, Representative Chop. All right, let's get back to it. There we go. Well, thank you, all of you, for coming and speaking today. I so appreciate it. And I'm going to hand this part over, I believe, to Brett and Cassie.
Yeah, I'll take over. We do have a lively discussion about blueberries. Again, a reminder, if anyone has a question for our candidates on the call. I know Liz Berry had to jump off, but we still have 3 more of them here. So any questions, if you could chat them in.
Type them in the chat, we'll read them out. Question and answer time, go for it. Or if you have a question you apparently don't want to write in the chat because no one's done it yet, you can also unmute yourself and just ask it right now. Oh.
Okay, here's a question from Stacy. For any candidate that wants to take this on, what is the best next steps for us to take to push the local options bill forward?
Should I answer that? I
Yes,
can't
please.
see everybody else. But yeah, it's important to pick a good advocate who also will have some measure of support behind them. So I ask you to look at not only who currently sponsors the bill, but also new members might be coming from other districts, because there's a strong sense, at least in the House Democratic Caucus, is to make new members successful. And so if they come in and either prime sponsor or co-sponsor the legislation, that could help. It depends on, again, you know, what people are thinking about that person. There's 3 P's in the legislature. There's policy, politics, and then personalities. So you have to look at all 3 of those in terms of a prime sponsor who could, you know, really know the policy, which is very important to be able to explain it clearly and cogently, and also know the general politics of the situation, but then also can get along with a lot of the other members to move it forward. So I'd be more happy to brainstorm possibilities for that. But we also respect the ones that the members who are already involved in sponsoring this. But I could tell you some sort of war stories that we had battling a particular senator who was opposed to this, and we have to figure out some way to move it forward and hopefully get his acquiescence, if not support.
Thank
This
you.
is Representative Yu. Totally agree with former Speaker Chop's assessment. Definitely, and one of the groups that you're sending us to is partnerships. Definitely very important who the partners are. And of course, who the Secretary of State is going to be, so vote for Gail. I think also what is really important is this upcoming legislative session, and maybe a couple more after that, we're going to be concentrating a lot more on equity, and especially with the Black Lives Matter and the disparate impacts of COVID-19. So pointing out that equity side of things, the fairness and justice side of what, especially whatever the language is going to be that's being proposed, I think will go a long distance in making sure that especially Democrats, a lot more Democrats would feel more comfortable signing on and supporting.
And I saw that Colin asked me, because there's often a lot of opposition and you have to have support in the state Senate as well. I absolutely would feel comfortable and think that we would sponsor this legislation in this case.
After you're done in 6 months with.
Thank you. And I'm going to throw it over to, we have a question specifically to Representative Chop. What is the most effective thing we can do to attract legislative support for ranked choice voting?
I think mention a very short, clear couple of words. Fairness, options, give people options, and this expands democracy. Just keep the message real simple, because the legislators are besieged with all sorts of groups and other legislators to say, hey, can you do this, can you do that? So the simple message, which resonates with what people think is the right thing to do, really helps. Because if you get in too much into the details of it right off the bat, it's pretty impossible to cover all that. So start with a basic message, and you have a basic message that is very compelling. And then you, of course, have a one-pager, no more than a page, by the way, that explains more of the details or other examples of it currently being used elsewhere.
Thank you. Excellent. Brett?
All right, so we have a detailed question from Tim. I'm happy to ask this unless, Cassie, you know some of the context of this. This is all new to me. But no, all right, I will. So this is to all the candidates. What do you think? So Tim asks, there's action involved on Tuesday at 9 a.m. So RCV tabulation begs for fully public counting of our votes. But Washington courts ruled vote ballots are currently exempt from public inspection. Washington's official Blue Ribbon Sunshine Committee is charged with recommending exemption changes to the legislature. The committee voted unanimously at its September 21st meeting to consider reversing the categorical exemption for ballot images, critical transparency reform for publicly verifying RCV tallies. And so they plug the meeting on Tuesday, October 20th. This is pivotal meeting 9 a.m. and 1. Okay, so like I said, I don't know the context to this, but for those that do,
I can jump in here and say I've talked to Tim before. I think the question relates to ballot transparency in regards to when we're actually having to implement ranked choice voting elections. And I'm not 100% sure what the question is. Maybe we're going to move on to the next one.
Well, this is Tim. Maybe I could put the question straightforward. I would urge the candidates to promote ranked choice voting by promoting public disclosure of the voted ballots. This was the key to ranked choice voting in Colorado. There was a case that went up to the Supreme Court there to make the ballot images public records. We need to be able, for the losers, to be able to verify that they lost in the second or third round. It's especially important with ranked choice voting compared to first past the post. Thank you.
Thanks.
Tim?
I'm not sure if there was exactly a question there, but maybe the question is to our representatives here today. What are your thoughts on ballot transparency related to ranked choice voting? How about that?
Well, I would just say that if there's consensus among your group, then we can definitely pursue it. So I think it's up to you to figure out the details of that question. Generally, we want to support very strongly public access to public records. Obviously, people want to make sure their vote is confidential for each person. But if it's looking at the stack of ballots that come in to assure that it's accurately counted, that seems like a reasonable thing to take a look at. And you should talk it through and recommend something to us.
Great. Thank you. Let's maybe move on to the next question here, since we do have a ton left here. So how about, is it helpful to look at how Maine managed to get this passed and how we in Washington might use those techniques? I think that's might be more of a question for us as an organization. And I can definitely tell you that we have talked to the representatives in Maine and are doing a lot to kind of emulate what they've been doing in Maine to pass ranked choice voting. Let's go on to the next question. Any candidate, what is the most effective way to contact my representatives? Is there different weight assigned to phone calls versus emails or physical letters?
For me, it's the easiest if you were to email me, because on the phone, I could lead you astray as much as my constituent can lead you astray in a conversation. However, if it's an email, I will definitely respond, and we all have one assistant. And if I don't respond, my assistant will make sure that I do. And so, and it becomes public record, of course. So you have to, and whatever I reply will have that disclaimer that, hey, this is part of the public record. So, don't send me your social security number, right? But that's, for me, the easiest way. And actually, that's the highest volume, and definitely easiest when I need to do follow-up. Then I am not chasing the phone call, leaving long messages, and vice versa. Letters are a little more difficult because we are all trying to become paperless. And when there is a public records request, those are really hard for us to sort through, versus if it's on an email, then really easy. And then, yeah, as I mentioned on the phone call, we try our best to reply to all, but sometimes we can't get that one digit right. So we can't call them back, and then they assume we're ignoring them, which is not the case. So yeah, email me, I've posted it. And if I don't reply, my assistant will make sure you get a reply.
All right, we'll keep this going.
I could add basically the first few words for any letter, any contact is as your constituent, comma, and then explain, because they need to know that you actually have a connection to them. But also any of those three options, and then other options, like text messages or whatever, I think is very appropriate. What's critical though is to try to find someone in your group that actually has already or that they've already known the legislator, so they could say things like, well, remember we worked together on this other project. Hey, I've got a great new idea I want to talk to you about. So try to find personal connections to folks who are in the legislature. That usually helps get a better response, because as you can imagine, we get thousands of emails. And a lot of people like to actually write a lot of words. And so I'd urge you to be brief, because we can't handle the volume personally, because each legislator just has one legislative assistant in the House. Okay, it's not like City of Seattle, who has got several staff people for each city council member, for example. And so just be brief and be friendly and have connections to the person that is beyond just a cold email or a text message.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then this one is actually for you, Representative Chop. You mentioned battling a senator to advance this type of initiative. What are the main reasons you hear from your colleagues opposing ranked choice voting?
Well, I should explain it. Didn't necessarily battle him, because he's actually a friend of mine. So it wasn't like, oh, we were yelling or screaming at each other. But he was concerned about two main things. One is it too complicated for the average person to understand? Because you don't want to have a situation where the actual voters out there saying, oh God, what do I do here? This is too complicated. So he was concerned about that. And then secondly, he heard of concerns in Pierce County about how that was implemented in Pierce County. So you have to, I don't know what happened in Pierce County, but I've heard rumors. And so you have to have a response to what happened, whatever happened in Pierce County. And people have talked to me directly about that who are opposed to this idea. And I said, well, again, it's a simple fairness. Give people the options. It expands democracy. I stuck with the basic message. But when you get into administering the elections, then if you get feedback from the local county election people, that could be a problem. But you know, most county election people like to keep things status quo. So we expect opposition from those folks just generically. They're very risk averse. So you have to get beyond that. And Pierce County, for whatever reason, seemed to get attention on this issue a couple of years ago or so. I'm not sure what the latest is. It might have been solved.
And I did just post in the chat a article actually by Sightline Institute called "What Really Happened with IRV in Pierce County," which is a great article to reference for that. So you can always click on that.
Quick.
We are very quick here.
Well, speaking of quick, we also wanted to condense this to about 10 minutes. We're a little bit over, but we do have 2 more questions outstanding. So we'll call it quits on questions, but we'll go ahead and take these last 2, if that's all right with everybody. So from Amy, what things would convince Republicans to sign on? RCV is nonpartisan, but I realize they tend more toward limitations on voting. Her question, her words, not mine, but necessarily. But does anyone want to tackle that?
Well, I can start. As a person who is trying to be as inclusive as possible, I paid a lot of attention to my ranking members and trying to work with them well. Well, in my 10th year, I've decided earlier this year, you know what, I just don't have the time to do this anymore. And so I think if you can convince all the Democrats to support this and make it easy, not easy, but simple, keep it simple, just like what Representative Chap said, then I think you just concentrate on people that go for the low-hanging fruits, go for the people who have representation, fairness, equity, all of those at the top of their minds, because I mean, sure, if the Republicans want to come along, great. If not, we'll drag them along.
Well, this is a perennial problem, getting the Republicans to support pretty much anything that's fair-minded, democratic, good for the society. Sorry to break it to you. Anyway, I would urge you to look at recent examples where at the end of the primary, there were 2 Democrats that got through, and see if the numbers would imply, if you did ranked choice voting, if a Republican was able to get through along with the Democrat. Like with the lieutenant governor race this year, you got 2 Democrats in the general. Republicans don't like that. They'd like to have their voices heard, whether I agree with them or not on their policies. And so I would urge you to look at specific examples of recently where it's gotten to that position. That might help, although obviously if it wouldn't help, then just forget it and go on to the next tactic there. But if they see it as something that would be in their self-interest looking ahead, that might help.
All right. And then go ahead and handle this one too. All right, we have the last question coming in from Zachary. This goes out again to any of the candidates. How do you see ranked choice voting affecting the traditional two-party system in Washington state? And do you see changing the two-party system as a good thing in light of the political division we're seeing nationally?
As a person who has served as a state committee woman from the 32nd Legislative District, sure, we could feel threatened, but I think us being a top 2 state already anyway, I think it's fine. The state parties can adjust to what we're doing. And in fact, remember I said I grew up in very rural Thurston and Lewis County. And so I'm the Democrat in our family, and my brothers are Republicans, very in conservative stripes. And Speaker Chap at that time went and helped me recruit my younger brother, Sam Kim, to run as a Democrat. Even though he was a Republican, he was a very unhappy Republican and very moderate, especially having served 16 years on a school board, public school board. And so he ran as an independent Democrat. Unfortunately, Vicky Kraft won that year with the Trump surge, but I think we are already getting used to it. So I don't see that as a huge problem. And the Democrats, we definitely believe in the big tent. And so whether we are I guess, independent Democrats running in the purple districts or flaming liberals like me who are being challenged by other Democrats, it's already happening. And so if that's the case, why not make it fair for the voters to actually get the candidates of their choice?
Anything else? Yes, candidate Anderson?
Well, I was going to say, I think Cindy has amazing points, but also it helps bring the parties up to a different level and makes us question our own values and challenge ourselves to, can we be better in our own party? And that's really important to always be challenging. That's what democracy is about. And that's how we come up with better legislation and better ideas. So I think this is a good thing. And I don't think we have huge threats, but it's enough of something to think about and look at where our values are and are we really representing the people? So I think that's what it's.
All right.
Great.
Okay, thank you, everybody. That was an awesome Q&A. I'm going to go back to sharing the screen. So for those of you who did come and speak today, it is up to you if you want to stay on our meeting or if you need to get off. Do you know what I mean? You're welcome to continue your day with whatever else you have planned. Oops, that's right. We are moving on to the rest of the candidate slideshow, and I'm passing it on to Brett.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. So glad you guys were here.
All right, so yeah, we'll go ahead and move on. These will be pretty quick, but we did want to shout out a few other candidates that will be on many of your ballots. So we'll do this quickly. Zack Hudgins in LD 11, Legislative District 11, and noting that he is a local options bill co-sponsor.
Hey, Brett. We also have Colin Cole here, who said that he would be more than happy to also take these slides if you want to pass it over to him as well.
Oh, by all means, I am muting myself now. Thank you.
Right, I didn't want to stomp on your words there. David Hackney, also running for state representative position 1, is an RCV champion. Bob Hasagawa, running for state senate in legislative district 11, is a local options bill co-sponsor. Katie Young, running for state representative position 1 in the 31st legislative district, is and committed to being an RCV champion as well. Mia Gregerson from the 33rd legislative district, position 2, was the prime sponsor of the local options bill in the 2019-2020 session. Sarah Reyneveld, running for state representative position 2, district 36, is committed to being an RCV champion. John Stafford, running for position 1, state representative, LD 37. Kirsten Harris Talley, running for State Rep Position 2, also in LD 37, is an RCV champion.
And Kirsten sent us a video, and I just want to check that I'm sharing computer sound so that you can actually hear it. There we go. Hopefully it'll work.
Hi, Fair Vote. Kirsten Harris Talley here, candidate for State Rep in the 37th Legislative District, and so excited to chat with you today. As you know, our campaign has had campaign finance reform and a thriving democracy as a cornerstone of our platform since day one. And I am so proud to have worked with so many, you and others in coalition, to pass the Voting Rights Act. And that means here in Washington State, we have a unique opportunity to bring forward ranked choice voting at the local level to make sure that we can have a thriving democracy that has folks on the ballot who look like us getting elected, that we can make sure that democracy, the people's voice, is heard so that a two-party and two-vote system doesn't overwhelm, and that we make sure that those who vote have their vote count. So, and also to build coalition amongst candidates so that once they are in office, we can have good governance from jump. So excited to join you in that work, excited to stand up for democracy, and look forward to seeing you all out in the streets. Be well.
Great. And then we've got Klaus Jones, also running for State Representative, Position 1, LD 39, as an RCV champion. And Ryan Johnson, State Representative, Position 2, also running in LD 39, as an RCV champion.
And Ryan also has sent us a video. Did the video work, the sound work fine on the last one?
Yeah, that was great.
Great, good.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Johnson. I'm running against Carolyn Eslick in the 39th. As you can see by the way I'm dressed, I am not your average candidate. I drive a truck. I just got home. It's 8 o'clock at night. Handicap me a little bit. I got to get this done. There's a reason there are very, very, very few average people in the legislature. And I knew this going in, but I had no idea how much the system was against me. Now that I've been at this for a while, oh man, the system is completely against people like me. The system is not made to represent average people. It is made for independently wealthy people. It is made for retired people, or it is made for business owners who can pay somebody to run their business. It keeps candidates constantly fundraising from people that have more money than sense, and those people want to make sure that average people don't get any representation. It is time to break the system, and I know of no better tool to do that than ranked choice voting. If you look at my Facebook site, Ryan Johnson for 39th LD, there's a wonderful presentation from Fair Vote, Kit Muehlman, and Kelsey Monaco, who explain what ranked choice voting is, how it works, and how it would benefit our current system. I was endorsed by Fair Vote. I love Fair Vote. If it does not pass this year, please run an initiative to do it. We need this for the health of our democracy and the health of our government. I want to thank you guys for endorsing me. Thank you for having me tonight. Excuse the quality of the video. I'm making this off the cuff. But no matter whether I get elected or not, we need this as a state and as a country. Let's get it done. Let's break the system together. Thanks for having me, everybody.
That was great.
Excellent. And then I will just say, oh, I was just going to, sorry, Colin, just a real quick point of clarification in case any of you caught that in the video. He mentioned that we endorsed his candidacy, and we don't officially endorse here at Fair Vote Washington, but we do recognize him as an RCV champion. So sorry, Colin.
I was about to make the same clarification, and I appreciate you doing it as well. Thank you, Brett. Now I'm not out here alone. Next, there's 3 more candidates recognized. Catherine Lewandowski, also running in the 39th district, but for state senate, is an RCV champion.
And she is here today, so thank you, Catherine.
Thanks. I appreciate it a lot. Just having the support from you guys, and I appreciate all the work that you do, because it's so very important. I think that we need to make drastic changes to our voting so that people aren't constantly having to vote for the least worst person, you know. So just to keep the worst person out. And I think that's what you guys stand for, so. And if we have any time, I just would like to say that, you know, I'm running for state senator in the 39th, along with Klaus and Ryan. It's pretty much a red district, has been for quite a couple of decades, I guess. And frequently there's been actually nobody to running against people in at least the senator positions, which has been really disappointing. So I'm hoping that everything that I would love to win, but just to have the option to be able to vote for somebody and have some choice in our elections, I think is just awesome for the people in the 39th. So I think it's going to be an exciting year, and if any of us can get in and start to turn this district purple, I think we will all benefit. So,
thank you so much for jumping in.
So the last two candidates recognized are State Representative Mylan Tai, who's running for re-election in the 41st District, Position 2, as a co-sponsor of the Local Options Bill. And finally, last but not least, State Representative Nicole Macri, running for re-election in the 43rd District for State Representative Position 1, also a Local Options Bill co-sponsor.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for jumping in there, Colin. Really appreciated that. And just a word is that you can check out candidates in other races across Washington State to see if they're ranked choice voting champions at our candidate recognition page there. And you can also look through our growing list of other supporters, and that includes legislators in Washington who aren't currently running for office. This was just to profile candidates in King County at our supporters page. So hopefully you'll get a chance to take a look at that. And so this is officially the end of this section of our meeting, the candidate section. And so we'll be moving on to our regular meeting structure, I guess, after this. So you are welcome to stay on. We hope that lots of people will still stay on for this part. But if you did come just for the candidates, this is it. And again, thank you to all those candidates who came and to any who stayed on. All right.
Great. Thank you. So what's really happening with Favorite Washington? If you want to go to the next slide, actually, most of what I'm talking about is going to be right up here. So we do have some upcoming legislation. Obviously, we've been talking about our local options bill is the flagship piece of legislation that will be reintroducing in the 2021 legislative session. We are also introducing several other bills, one of which would be using ranked choice voting for the presidential primary in 2024, and a couple other ones. And I will say we are going to be doing a legislative breakout room here and very soon, because we want to make sure we have some time for people to be talking in those. So I'm not going to go too in depth with the legislation. If you want to hear more about that, definitely join that legislative breakout room. Also want to talk about the fact that we recently launched a political action committee to put some limited funds behind particular races where we have really excellent champions of ranked choice voting who are, you know, kind of like neck and neck with their opponent, and we want to fund their, or at least contribute to their campaign, not completely fund it. We're a very small organization that doesn't have a ton of funds, but there's just a couple of candidates that we've committed to providing a little bit of funding towards who are ranked choice voting champions. Once again, Colin Cole is our legislative director. He's going to be leading that legislative breakout room. And if you have questions about that, definitely ask him about them there, because I don't know nearly as much about it as he does. A couple other things here. We've recently launched several new chapters throughout the state of Washington. So this is our King County chapter here. We actually had a South King County chapter and then a Central King County chapter, but because of COVID, you know, might as well do everything together since we have no geographical limitations. And we've recently launched new chapters in Skagit County, in Snohomish County, and in North Central Washington. And so that's around the Wenatchee area. And we're also working on starting a chapter out in the Yakima County, which is a great segue into the fact that Yakima County is currently, there's a lawsuit under the Washington Voting Rights Act. And the whole background of that is that the Latinx community makes up about 40 to 50% of the Yakima County, yet has only had one representative from their community on the county council ever. And so as a result, an organization called One America sued under the Washington Voting Rights Act. And the remedy that they are requesting is actually a particular form of ranked choice voting that would get more representation for the Latinx community within Yakima County. So that is really exciting. Definitely something that we're keeping our eye on. One America is the group that's leading that right now, and we are supporting whatever efforts they're doing there. So definitely keep your eye on that one. That was it for me. Know your trivia for next month's meeting. I guess we're going to be doing some trivia at the next King County meeting talking about this.
I'm going to have a little game, low stress. So if you don't know your trivia, it's okay. But I'm hoping there's a couple competitive people who want to show what they know of ranked choice voting. So just a little highlight.
Great. Go on to the next slide here. Just a few things that I want you all to be aware of. So in Massachusetts right now, the Amendment 2 is the amendment where they're going to be getting ranked choice voting statewide in Massachusetts. They're currently campaigning on that. They're working on getting out the vote right now. So we have partnered with Voter Choice Massachusetts is their organization to be able to support those efforts. And we actually have a phone bank to call Massachusetts voters right after this meeting at 12 o'clock today. We also have one on the 24th and on the 1st, both from 12 to 2 p.m. If you want to volunteer and do any of those, I'm going to quickly, if I can do this while talking, post in the chat the link to sign up for any of those upcoming phone banks. It's a really great way to advocate for ranked choice voting and a campaign that's currently happening right now. So if you're interested in doing those phone bankings, please feel free to sign up in that link I just posted in the chat. And you can move on to the next one. And there is a meme challenge right now. If you are someone that likes to make ranked choice voting memes or just memes in general, More Equitable Democracy, another organization that are huge champions of ranked choice voting, and actually Colin Cole, our legislative director, is, I believe, one of the co-founders of, they're putting on a meme challenge where if you create one of the best ranked choice voting memes that gets submitted, you'll get, I think, $100 for submitting your meme. So if you're interested in winning some funds and also making some cool memes for the ranked choice voting movement, definitely feel free to enter this. I don't have that link pulled up right now, but I'll make sure to post in the chat at some point in the near future, and you can move on. And was Brett going to do this one? Yeah, I think you do that.
Yeah, here, let me just drop this. We'll keep this super short, but please subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a lot of great information on there. Past webinars that we've hosted a ranked choice voting song from our birthday bash a couple weeks ago, which is fantastic. But also, if you subscribe, once we get to 100 subscribers, we no longer have the very long YouTube URL. We can actually have a customized URL. So if everyone on this call right now subscribed, we're that close, then we would get our sleek and elegant own URL. So YouTube, links there. Thank you much, and we can keep going.
Great, thank you, Brett. All right, so we're now diving into the King County chapter, but kind of as a segue there, since our last chapter meeting to this one in between, Fairvote Washington had their second birthday bash, and for that birthday bash, different chapters spoke, and our chapter, thanks to Brett's creativity, we ended up doing a little video clip that we are going to share with you just in case you didn't see it. And you can definitely see Brett is the funny one. I am not, but here it is.
From rural to suburban, South King County.
Up through Seattle, the King County chapter has been busy.
When the pandemic hit, the South King County chapter had just gotten started. We quickly moved online and joined forces with Seattle for a unified King County chapter. Together, we've published letters to this. Recently, our combined meetings have tripled in size.
And with over 2,000 supporters in the county, we look forward to building out our teams in the year to come.
So there you go, just in case you missed it. But, and for those who don't know the history, it does give you a little bit of the history of our two chapters joining as one.